got a smaller crowd today, and I feel like everybody knows who I am, who you are, who the deck is. So, how about we just go ahead and kick it off with first off thanking our sponsors, AMS Arkansas Manufacturing Solutions, and the Arkansas Workforce Connections for their partnership in allowing us to keep these webinars free of charge. And yeah, with that, I'll just go ahead and turn it over to you and let you and William get started with the education.
Sehr gut. I guess you
Sorry, Miss Heidi, I threw off your whole slideshow.
yeah, man.
Am I doing that? My bad. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'll just stop share and we'll go from there. Okay. All right.
You want me to jump in, or Rudy, you got anything to say
Yeah,
first?
well, no, actually, if we can go back to Mr. William, I'm sorry, my apologies.
Yeah.
If we can go back to Mr. William, and so everybody can see what a fantastic background he has and why he's here and not somebody else.
All right. Well, I'll just jump in. Let me share real quick.
I think Miss Heidi's trying,
Got it. Okay.
but in any case, that's a little bit of background myself. But I'd rather go to William's slide if that's okay.
Excellent.
So here, there you go. All right, there's a housekeeping.
Yeah. All right, that's Mr. William Burgess, and he is the co-CEO of Power Technology, and they make all sorts of high precision lasers. Very cool company. I've been there, and quite an operation. And as it turns out, Power Technology and William have won the all sorts of awards, not only the governor's awards as Export of the Year, but also the President's E Award, and that is quite a big deal. And so they obviously know quite a bit about exporting. They're in 30 plus. In fact, William, I think you guys are closer to 40 countries now, aren't you?
Yeah, around 36 so far this year.
Yeah. Anyway, so lots of expertise in terms of exporting and the things that you need to consider when you're setting up distributorships and partners and all of that. So he's definitely the right guy to talk about this topic. So with that, William, if you'll take it away.
All right. Thank you. Let me just get my share going here. All right. Well, thanks, Rudy. Jump right in here. Power technology's been around now for 56 years or so. We've always had a strong international pull for our products. So we've got a long history of exporting, and thought I'd share a little bit of that with you today. I would prefer, this is to be a little bit more of an interactive process. So if you've got questions during the presentation, I hope you'll interrupt me. I hope you'll ask your questions. It's a lot more fun for me when you're asking questions than me just droning on and on about exports. But let me go a few slides in, and then we'll stop for questions. All right. Really, what we want to teach you today is that exporting, it can be challenging, but it's not overly complicated. Once you learn how to export to the first country, it gets a lot easier to export to the second country. So it's a little overwhelming when you look at 30 or 40 countries per year. But again, the processes are generally very similar, maybe some country specific requirements, but you can get over those hurdles one at a time. We want to give you confidence and knowledge to help you expand your exports. And hopefully at the end of this, you'll be able to start creating more value for your business, more value for yourself, and hopefully be able to make a plan. I'm big on written plans and communicating to my employees. So hopefully you'll get an idea of how to communicate to your employees as well. A lot of different ways to organize yourself for exporting. Some bigger companies, they kind of want to segregate things a little bit by product line. They may want to offer product line A in a certain country, but not product lines B, C, and D. And there are reasons they may want to do that. Uh, Historically, Power Technology has organized by territory and by product line, um, offering some of our products into certain territories, but keeping certain product lines for ourselves domestically and internationally. So you can have a blend in this Venn diagram. And then you can do something hybrid with your marketing as well. Online marketing versus traditional marketing. You can segment your markets however you want. I think the main thought here is, just, you know, don't treat your export sales the same as you treat your domestic sales. There's too much difference. You're going to become really frustrated if you try to do that. Um, so if you have, a small sales force, it probably would be good to start by just training one of them to be your international sales person, instead of trying to teach everybody. There's a little bit to learn, and so some segregation within your sales team is probably a good idea as well. So obviously, before you start exporting, you kind of want to have a solid export foundation. Um, if you're a startup, for instance, and you still, struggling to process an order, it's probably a little too early to, start exporting. Not looking for perfection. You know, None of us have a perfect company, but the routine stuff needs to be routine. It's going to get a little more difficult when you do start exporting. You want to have the basics kind of covered. Um, you need to have commitment, not just from your ownership, but from your staff. You need to have the proper resources in case your market requires travel or other resources. Um, yeah, the last thing you want to do is secure a big order and find out that the owner doesn't want to take a certain risk. So make sure that you've got full staff buy-in from the top to the bottom. Want to make sure that you're competitive in the market that you're looking at. Um, Obviously, me trying to sell lasers back into China is a little difficult, just from a cost perspective, but we do sell into China. It's probably not the market where we're going to put a lot of effort because, simply put, we're not competitive price-wise in those markets. And then, honestly, you're going to need to stick it out. It's not going to be, a quick process to grow your exports. You're looking at, depending on your market, at least a year to maybe 3 years before you really, really, really start to see some traction. So you're in it for the long haul if you're going to start exporting.
Yeah. And William, one of the things that I might expand upon in terms of the comment that you made about China and all of that, and also the fact that in some particular cases, uh, I'm sorry, you might want to hold back on certain products in certain countries, and
Mhm.
one of the reasons you might do that is for instance, if you have multi generations of a particular product,
Right.
you start off with product A, and over time you develop some new development in terms of that kind of product. Well, I mean, you don't just stop selling it. You find foreign markets that don't require this new level of technology, and sell into those markets, but not sell the newer stuff for a variety of reasons. More likely because they don't need it and are unwilling to pay for the A plus stuff, right? And so that's certainly one of the reasons why you may decide not to provide a particular product to a country, just because they're willing to buy the older and cheaper stuff, hopefully, and don't need the top tier stuff.
Yeah, and as I've progressed through my career, I've found that more and more. I think it's more common than I ever realized. But yeah, there's a lot of market available out there for what we call previous generation products. So good point. Good point. Rudy, would you also keep an eye on the chat for me? And if anything pops up in chat,
Will do.
please let me know. So, going to be investing a lot of time and a lot of effort into building your export team. Um, I think flexibility is probably the most important thing that I can stress on this slide. You know, as I said, each country has a little different requirement. Maybe it's regulatory, maybe it's certain types of documentation, but you know, you're going to have to just remain flexible and provide whatever's asked for you. Um, you know, commitment to travel. You know, every market's different, every product's different. You know, I'm not trying to convince anyone they should become a road warrior and spend 75% of their time out, you know, traveling to, you know, every country in the world. It's not required, but there are times when it is, and there's still large parts of the world where you know you're not going to make any progress until you get some face-to-face commitment, face-to-face time with your customer and build relationship. Especially in Asia, things are very relation dependent, and if you don't put the effort in to form a relationship, it's going to be a very long, difficult road. All right. Last thing I'd say is the cultural sensitivity. You know, choose a market that you want to attack, and then learn about not just, you know, the products in that are needed by that country, but also the cultural aspects of that country. Um, you definitely want to avoid offending potential customers just because you haven't spent 20, 30 minutes studying their culture and understanding, you know, what makes them tick. For instance, again, Asia, I mean, they're sometimes as Americans, we can be very direct and very, you know, straight to the point, similar to the German cultures. Um, you know, in Asia, that's not going to go over so well. You may spend 15 minutes talking about the weather or the family or those types of things. It's small talk, but it's part of, you know, their culture to build a relationship before getting down to business. And the conversations may stretch out. If we contrast that to Germany, and Germans are similar to Americans in that they want to get right into the technical details of either the product or doing business. You know, what may work in Germany is not going to work very well in Asia. Let's see. So it's not just your internal resources that you need to be thinking about. You need to think about your external resources as well. The bankers is the first one that comes to mind. For me, we have a line of credit with a bank here in Arkansas. And, you know, we've had several different banks provide that line of credit in the past. Sometimes you find banks that are comfortable with foreign receivables and collateralizing against those foreign receivables. And sometimes, especially in Arkansas, you may find that banks are a little less risk adverse and may not want to give you credit for those foreign receivables. Excuse me. This can affect how much you know, credit you have available on that line of credit. So you want to make sure that your external resources are aligned with your goals of shipping product internationally. Let me stop there for a second and see if anybody has any questions.
You know, one of the things that you were mentioning was, you know, the fact that different countries operate differently and from a cultural perspective, and you know, how much face time you need and all of that. One of the things that I have found in terms of Americans and really kind of almost a Five Eyes group of countries
Mhm.
versus others is the fact that, for instance, when you go to Latin America and even the Middle East, they want to talk about your kids. They want to ask about, what sports they play, on and on and on. And as Americans, we've got a pump. The pump meets your specifications and your price range. Do you want it? Yes or no? And in a lot of countries like the Middle East and South America, they don't do business like that for a reason, and that is our legal structure in the United States. For the most part, in up to now, if William and I had a deal going, and for whatever reason I renege on the deal, well, William can sue me, and he can fully expect that the courts will make a fair judgment whether I in fact did break the contract or not. And if the courts find me that I did, well then there'll there'll be a judgment against me, and William will win. Well, that's not true in many, many, many countries, including Asian countries and in particular South American countries. It's who can buy the judge. I mean that's the reality of things. There's a lot of corruption, and so they cannot count on the courts to be able to pass a good judgment, a just judgment if I renege on the contract. And so therefore, in Latin America and in other countries, they want to make sure that you are someone they can trust. Well, as we all know, that takes time. That takes face time, that takes exposure, several conversations. That way they can feel, they can make a judgment on their own whether you are somebody they can do business with and that they can trust. And that if something does go wrong, as inevitably it will, that you will make it good. And I think we'll all agree that that is a much better way of dealing with companies, dealing with somebody that you can trust, and that takes time. And so that's the reason they ask all these questions, and they're much slower to, it's not just about the pump. That's not really the issue. The issue is if something goes wrong, can they trust you to make it right?
And you can use that to your advantage as an exporter. While they're getting to know you, you get a chance to know them too, and you want to make sure that you've got a good partner on the other end of the transaction. So there's a lot of different methods to exporting. Um, in my line of business, starting on the left side, it's kind of the easiest to the more difficult on the right side of this arrow. But I've got customers that order from me domestically. I may ship it to California, and then that individual, and he is just the example I'm thinking of. He is an individual. He forwards that product on to Asia without my involvement. So it's more of an indirect route to get product into a market. He, wants to keep his customers private, so he acts as an intermediary. He takes on all the export duties, fees, taxes, the logistical expenses are all his. And then, of course, he marks up the product to his end user. For his customers, this works fine. He sends me an order, and I don't spend any effort trying to sell to him. He kind of drives himself. Um, on the other end of the scale is, exporting directly, um, or exporting through intermediaries. For power technology, we do both 3 and 4, depending on whether or not we have a distributor in a territory. For us, a territory is typically around the geographical country boundaries. So, for instance, in the UK, I've got a distributor that's working as my intermediary. They're interfacing directly with the customer and then with me as well. And, we've got a good, strong partnership. Um, Other countries, like, for instance, Turkey, I do not have a distributor in country. And so we export directly to end users, end customers there. So it's a little bit more, we're working one-to-one in Turkey with customers versus in, if I've got 50 customers to support in Turkey, that's a lot of work. Versus in the UK, I'm working with my distributor, and then my distributor's working with those 50 countries, 50 companies, excuse me. That's a lot different than working with Turkey. Um,
And William, why did you make that decision that in the case of Turkey that you were going to go directly to the end user?
Well, it simply because of lack of a suitable distributor, and I'll speak to that in a little bit.
Sure
But
thing.
we see a lot of organic inquiries from all over the world. I mentioned earlier that we've shipped to around 36 countries so far this year. I've only got distribution in about 11 countries. So we get some organic flow from our website and from international trade shows that we participate in. Um, so, I don't have a distributor in every country in the world, unfortunately. So I do get those organic sales. The point I'm trying to make in the UK is my distributor's a multiplier. It's a lot easier for me to deal with him than to deal with 50 individual companies in Turkey. So think about that. Do you have the sales bandwidth to talk to 50 companies or just one company? And, if you've got the sales bandwidth, that's great. It's going to be, um, a little bit better relationship. There's one less level of markup if you're dealing direct to the customer, but it's going to be a little bit more overhead to support that customer base.
Yeah, there's no free lunches there, William. I mean,
Never,
there's yeah.
never. So I think that's just what I was talking about. I jumped ahead on my slides. Uh, you know, our problem, traditionally has been, reaching those end customers that don't reach out to us. And that's where we find our distributors do an excellent job. They've got boots on the ground, salesmen making the rounds within their territory to find customers that we would never find from here in the US. And it doesn't make sense for us to go knocking on doors in a foreign country trying to get enough orders. They're doing it, and that's our preference is to work with a distributor. Some of the disadvantages of working with a distributor is you lose that direct connection to the customer, and sometimes that customer input's pretty important. You want to be responsive to the market. So it gives you a little less control, but it comes with advantages and disadvantages. Let me stop here and see if anyone has any questions, and then I'll
Yeah,
tell you a story
yeah,
about the recent trip.
there is. Laura Miller is asking, do you incorporate? How are you incorporating AI into your export activities?
Into export activities. That is a great question. Um, hmm. Well,
So,
not well enough is
while
the
you're
answer.
mulling that over, one of the things that I'm finding in terms of AI is, sort of like Chat GPT, right? Asking it questions that will round out, possibly, and actually probably round out some things that you had not thought about. For instance, like what things should I be concerned about if I'm going to do business in Sri Lanka? Right?
Mhm.
As a base series of considerations if you're going to do business in X, right?
Mhm.
And things that you may not have thought about or been aware about, and now you have an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper and find out whether the concern applies to you or not. But using AI to ask questions to give you some additional, more complete information than you might be aware of, I think is a great use of AI.
Absolutely. Um, one of the ways that we've used AI in foreign markets is trying to compile a list of potential distributors. So I'll talk for a minute about Turkey and Poland. Last month, I participated in the U.S. Department of Commerce trade mission to both Poland and Turkey. As part of preparation for that visit, we were trying to identify potential business partners and customers in both countries. And so I was able to use AI to um, create a list of potential partners and uh, fed that list over to the U.S. Department of Commerce, who set up meetings in each country for me. And I had about 15 one-on-one meetings with companies in both countries. Sometimes those meetings were with customers, and other times they were with potential distributors. Um, our primary goal was to find distribution in both Turkey and Poland to help us manage the leads that were coming in from those two countries. Ultimately, we were successful in finding three potential distributors among those two countries, and also talked to several direct customers along the way. So, we're trying to transition from direct selling over to that kind of number three on that earlier slide where we have the distributor intermediary in between. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have distribution contracts signed with those three countries. I think coming out of that trip, there was one epiphany that I had on that trip. I went into it hoping to find a distributor for Turkey and a distributor for Poland that could cover my major markets. And my major markets are scientific, kind of university R&D companies, um, military customers, and then also medical customers. What I discovered in Turkey and then confirmed in Poland is that no one distributor is talking to those three different communities.
Mm.
So I'm going to have to segment my market, where traditionally I would have assigned one distributor for Turkey and one for Poland. I may have to assign up to three distributors in each of those markets in order to maximize my growth opportunities there. The medical guys are definitely speaking a different language than the military guys, right? And so one distributor is not going to be very, very good at speaking, both of their, language, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to
And,
adapt my export strategy a little bit.
and William, so to that excellent point, do you think maybe reflecting on it that is true not just for Poland and Turkey, but
Mhm.
that in general that may be the case?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the epiphany that I had was that I may have to reevaluate my, distribution
Model.
strategy or
Yeah.
model from the last 20 years. Um, and then how do I break it to my old faithful distributors that I need to make some adjustments along the way. So we'll see. I'll have a chance to talk with them in January at our annual distributor meeting, and it's going to be a fun conversation, but probably a necessary one. Let me see what else we got on here. Um, so channels to market. I mean, obviously distribution looks different for me than it may look for somebody else. We're an OEM manufacturer. We're not trying to sell to end users, and that affects the distribution strategy. We're trying to sell product to people that make other equipment. Um, we like to use the analogy of, we make an engine, somebody else makes a car, right? So we're trying to sell to the car manufacturer who then wants to sell it to the end users. So there's different strategies depending on where you're trying to sell into the marketplace. My business is strictly B2B. I have no B2C or business to customer interactions, and that affects how I approach a new market. If you're trying to sell directly to end users with a consumer product, my strategies are not the right strategies. So, think that through and where you're trying to attack the market, whether you're trying to find distributors, retailers, or end users. All right. So choosing a good partner. Some of the things that we're looking for when I was in Turkey and Poland, I didn't really want to just take the first person who walked in the door for sure. As I said, I had about 15 meetings per country, multiple candidates for distribution. Some of the things that we were looking at is, okay, how many salesmen do they have in the field? Do they have good geographical coverage? Um, in a country like India that has vast um, territory, you may want to have, up to three a distributor with up to three offices to cover that large spans. In a smaller country, for instance, Germany, for instance, still a pretty decent sized country, but you can cover the entire country pretty reasonably from Munich or Berlin. Um, but a single office in India is probably not going to cut it. Um, Other things we're looking for in partnerships are, some technical expertise. People selling our products typically have a PhD or some scientific background. Um, may not be required for your product, but for ours, it does help if you speak the language of your customer. So we're looking for good technical background. We're looking for some longevity. Really don't want to work with somebody who's been trying to sell product for 6 months. We're looking for, 3 to 10 years worth of business experience selling technical products. And we sometimes we ask some uncomfortable questions. We're trying to be thorough, so asking a lot of questions gives us a lot of insight. So routinely, we'll ask how much, what's your turnover? How much revenue are you making? And then we'll look at how many employees they have, and that gives us some indication of, just how they're scaling, that type of thing. So want to make sure that they're going to be a good long-term prospect for us. Let me stop there for a second and see if we have any questions in chat.
Not at this point.
All right.
But
Yeah.
I did I guess I'll jump in here because you've sort of covered it before. I made the comment to William that there's no free lunch, and p part of that is the understanding in terms of having distributors and retail outlets and whatnot. I mean, the reason that you're giving up as much as 40% of your margin to, in this case, in this example, a distributor, is because the assumption that you need to be paying attention to is the fact that they already are selling to that market. They already have the experience. They understand the channels. They understand everything about selling to that market. That's what you're paying for with that 40%. Otherwise, you might as well try to do, sell to the end user if that's not the case.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons that William has not found somebody in Turkey, because apparently they don't have that experience. They don't have that depth. They don't have the number of representatives, of sales representatives, on and on and on. So it's really important to look at it from the perspective, what is the 40% or 35 or whatever the margin that you're giving up to the distributor? What is it buying me? And if it's not buying you instant, automatic access to the market that you're looking for, then there's no point in having a distributor.
Mm, absolutely. And we've really had to reevaluate that question. What is that 40% buying us with all the tariffs that have come online this year? We're not going to pay those tariffs as the exporter. Um, in some cases, some of our foreign markets have retaliatory tariffs against the
Mhm.
United States. And those are now the responsibility of your distributor in that foreign market. So my point is things change over time, so have to reevaluate that question. So there's a couple of strategies that we've used in choosing the right partner and looking for partners without ever really leaving the country. We participate in a number of domestic trade shows that have up to 35, 40% international visitors, particularly one in San Francisco in January of every year draws a large Asian contingency. A lot of those visitors may work for distributors that want more product to sell back in their home country. So we invite those discussions at those trade shows, about distribution. We may post some signage that says looking for distribution. We might even target a certain country or two with that signage. But you can have good conversations if even if the person you're talking to doesn't want to distribute their product, they probably know who are the good distributors in their country. So sometimes just taking an informal poll of, hey, I want to ship product to Kazakhstan. Who are the best distributors in Kazakhstan for your product? And over time, you can build a decent list, and you'll know who to approach to distribute your product. So we do a number of domestic trade shows and have those conversations, but we also participate in some foreign trade shows, particularly one every other June in Munich, Germany. And that really helps with our penetration into the European market. That is one of our largest regions where we ship product to. Um, we make the choice to exhibit at that show on our own. We don't partnership. We don't just we don't exhibit in partnership with our distribution partners, mainly because there's too many of them, and we don't want to offend any of them. But this also allows us to, reach directly to the European market and understand it a little better with one-on-one conversations with our customers. That being said, we're supporting our European partners and passing the sales leads that we generate onto those distributors. But it also gives us a chance to talk with markets where we don't have existing distribution. Let's see. Um, One tool which we've used in the past is this Gold Key service by the U.S. Commercial Service. Um, it's pretty inexpensive way to meet new people in a new market. It's reasonably affordable. You can get 6 or 10 meetings set up, perhaps by Zoom, or you can go directly in country, and they will help facilitate the face-to-face meetings. But I dare say that you'll be able to get the number of meetings set up for the amount of money that commercial service charges. It would just be impossible to find a private service to do it at the same price point. So they're really good at that, and I would highly recommend it. And of course, I've talked about trade missions. I would highly recommend any trade mission the U.S. Department of Commerce sets up. Um, there's just there were only 3 trade missions this year, but typically there's well over 20 trade missions, and I expect to return to the normal schedule next year. But sign up for their email list, and you'll certainly get notice of those those opportunities. I would just encourage you to, pick your market before you pick your trade mission. You can spend a lot of money flying all over the world, um, but try to focus your efforts on one or two countries to begin with.
Yeah, do the research that's necessary to pick what one or two countries that is. A lot of times people will look at just as I use this example all the time, Brazil, right? Brazil, if you look at it strictly from a marketing perspective, huge country, big population, big middle class, they like to buy good stuff. What's not to like? Well, actually, quite a bit. They have almost 100% tariffs on just about all American products. Their interest rates for the citizens that are going to borrow money to buy your products start at 35%. Intellectual property, it takes about 10 years to get a patent in their country, on and on and on. So, if you have to look at all the aspects of a country to ascertain whether that really is kind of the low-hanging fruit in terms of all those variables, not just, hey, is it a big market and do they like to buy widgets? That is just, I mean, the very, very thinnest of first layers. Oh, William, and while I'm at it, one of the attendees asked the question, "Are you reachable?" And the question is for you. Are you reachable on LinkedIn as an either as an individual or a company?
Yeah, actually both. Yeah, feel free to look up either William Burgess or Power Technology. We both have a presence in LinkedIn, and believe it or not, we do get inquiries via LinkedIn from time to time from foreign countries. So, um, not a primary marketing tool of ours, but we do get inquiries. And feel free to reach out to me if you have a question I can help you with. Um, the U.S. Department of Commerce has a product that they offer, which helps you identify good markets that would be good for your specific products. I think they'll make 3 country recommendations based on the description you give them of your products. It's a nice 3, 4, 5 page report. Really, if you're trying to figure out which markets are best for you, they'll look at the export trends and the import trends of foreign countries, foreign markets, and give you some suggestions. So I would say reach out to the Department of Commerce if you're having trouble narrowing down what market you want to attack.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure of this, and that is that the Rural Export Center,
Mhm.
which I think they're in South Dakota, but they're part of Commerce. If I remember correctly, Arkansas is part of the service area for them, and I think that they can help you with some of that research.
Absolutely. And they can also help you globalize your website. It is something that AI can do for you is try to translate your website, but I think they've got some better tools, that might give better translations and help you not just translate your website, but also market your firm in foreign countries, make you rank higher in the search engines, those types of things. All right. Yeah, this slide, you know, it is nice to visit a foreign market, and obviously you can spend a lot of money doing that. I'll tell you about a mistake I made in roughly 2012. I went on a trade mission that included Malaysia, and I'm shipping a lot of product to Malaysia. I thought it was going to be a great country. But what I figured out about Malaysia is they do a lot of manufacturing in Malaysia. They do absolutely no product design, and they have no ability to, substitute one part for another part. So even though I was sending quite a bit of product over there was no business for me. The decision makers weren't in Malaysia. The decision makers were in California, and so I had to kind of recalibrate. It was great to visit Kuala Lumpur, but I wasted you know 3 or 4 days and $3,000 or $4,000 figuring out that that just wasn't the market for me. So I should have done more research on the front end. But despite that, visiting the country definitely helped me kind of narrow down my Asia strategy. So
Yeah. So William, in terms of that experience, and now in hindsight, what sort of research would you have done that you would have been able to discover that?
yeah, good question. I hate to keep going back to the U.S. Department of Commerce, but they do have these country guides, which I learned about after the fact that for just about every country in the world, over 200 countries in the world, they write a book basically on these countries, 40, 50 pages, kind of minimum length, that talks about everything from, products that are needed in those countries, the culture, the cost of doing business, the regulatory burden level. It's really a whole cross section of each country. And I would encourage you to go, if you're going to be researching markets, go pull those country guides, I believe they call them.
Yes,
From
that's
there.
correct.
The CIA, believe it or not, also has resources
Absolutely.
that are good for exporters. Very similar situation. They have available these guides that are on a country by country basis. A little different focus. They're probably a little more politically focused than the Commerce Department are. And then I think it's the World Bank or one of the IMF, one of those two also has something similar um, to the country guides. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of resources for sure. And and to the previous question about the AI, that's another resource you can use, uh, taking into account that sometimes the answers they give are incorrect. I mean, that's just a fact.
mm,
But at the very least, it puts on your radar certain things that you can further investigate. But you definitely don't want to take, uh, uh, you know, uh, its word, so to speak, 100%. Once again, it's a starting point.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, all right. Again, looking at your foreign partners, it's always good to make sure that you're aligned on your core values. That was part of the getting to know your foreign partner. But a lot of times, other, they may have some core values that they have documented. It might be good to review those. Um, Knowing their history, their trade and bank references. It's not unusual to ask for references,
Yeah.
both trade and bank. Um, in the US, we don't usually ask for bank references. In foreign countries, it's a lot more common to get a reference from a bank. So I would say definitely do that. Make sure that they pay their bills in under 90 days, kind of thing.
Yeah. William, as I remember, I think the gold key, but at least one of the tools of the gold key is that you can have them do just that.
Right, right. The U.S. Department of Commerce maintains an office within many of the consulates and embassies throughout the world, and some of the staff in those offices will actually, research the potential partners that you've got, make sure they're not operating out of the garage of their house, make sure that they have a real address, run through a lot of these reference checks for you to make sure that they're a good partner. So definitely a good suggestion there, Rudy.
Yeah, one of the things I do on a regular basis, especially if I'm dealing with certain countries, they say they're at 123, Chicago Street or whatever, whatever the address they give me. I actually look it up, on Google Maps, and
Yeah,
often it is, not a real business address, nothing.
yeah,
So it once again use the internet and in order to do very preliminary searches.
absolutely. And the product that you mentioned a minute ago, Rudy, is this third item here. This business screening tool is called International Company Profile.
Yeah.
That's the name of the product offered by Commerce. So let's talk real quickly about negotiating partner content. I know we're coming to a close here pretty quick. You can spend a lot of money and time negotiating a partner agreement. Whether or not you choose to involve a lawyer from that foreign market is certainly a business decision that you have to make. Some of the things to look out for in an agreement: you want to make sure that you have a non-compete clause. You really don't want your distributor to compete against you, or in some cases to carry competing product lines. You want to make sure that's well defined and you understand and they understand what they can and cannot do. Need to make sure you have a non-disclosure agreement within your distribution agreement. You really don't want them just releasing your confidential information in any way, shape, or form without your consent. The standards in another country of what information they may disclose are completely different than what we think of here in the United States. This third one, making sure that a third party can't bind your company to another agreement is an important one that often gets overlooked. Another one that often gets overlooked is the making sure that your foreign partner doesn't bribe any foreign official to get business. The U.S. actually has laws against this, and you're actually responsible for the behavior of your partner. If they're bribing someone to get a contract to build an airport in a foreign country, that's against the U.S. law, and it can come back to bite you pretty hard.
Yeah. You've got one here that I'd like to comment on, the escape clause, non-performance.
Yeah.
Obviously, you go into it thinking that Bob in Sri Lanka is going to do a good job, and turns out that they don't, right? And in many countries, and this is really important to understand and to really grasp the fact that it is not like the United States. Here in the United States, we can let a person or a company go for any reason or no reason. That is not the case in many countries, including the EU. It is very, very difficult to get out of a contract, even if the people are not performing whatsoever. So you really need to understand the laws of the country and all of that. But do have escape clauses, non-performance clauses, but also recognize what countries uh, that's not even worth the paper it's written on. So
Yeah.
just be aware, do the research.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon sometimes for, companies to sign distribution agreements and then not perform just as a way to lock you out of the country. So those escape
Exactly.
clauses are super critical. Your comments there dovetail into Michael's question in the chat.
Yes.
Um, we choose to use distributors so we don't have to set up a business in each country. I think that the decision to do that depends on the scale of the business you're doing in that foreign market. If we had, 3 million, 4 million, $5 million worth of business in a foreign market, we would probably set up a business and hire direct employees in that country. But we're not quite to that point yet. Um, we did have an office in Germany for a little while. You know, it's extremely hard to have employees there. The business laws are not the same. It's hard to let go of employees. It's hard to downsize. So, it's you got to have some scale to really make it worth it. We do deal directly in US dollar, although we can accept payment in euros. We do define all of our contracts, our perform invoices, all of our business is done in US dollar. With that, we do extend net 30 terms to our distributors. However, in other markets where we don't have a distributor, we deal in US dollars, but we are cash in advance. We don't extend credit to our non-partner customers as a way to protect ourselves. There is an easy way to be able to extend that credit to those non-partner companies. XM Bank has an excellent product that you can use to extend credit in foreign markets. It costs about 0.5%.
Well worth it.
Yeah, it's well worth it. It's cheap. It's a lot cheaper than what's that letter of credit? And it works for smaller transactions. You don't need to have $1 million transaction. You can have $1,000 or $10,000 transaction. It works really, really well and mitigates your risk and gives you about 90% coverage for that foreign receivable. So I've seen that used with banks a lot of times that weren't comfortable with foreign receivables. And once you get that insurance coverage, their comfort level goes up quite a bit. All right, another question about how to enforce NDAs and master service agreements. Yeah, enforcing something in a foreign country is always an expensive proposition.
Yes, sir.
Luckily, we've not had a huge need to enforce too many contracts or agreements in foreign countries. Yeah, you're gonna have to have a local lawyer to chase that down for you, and yeah, just know that it's going to be expensive. Master service agreement, I think that means a little different thing to me than it does to you, so I'm not going to comment on MSAs very much.
Yeah, and this kind of gets back almost in reverse. We were saying earlier that if you're in Egypt or some place like that, they want to get to know you because they don't trust basically their judicial system. And here it's almost the same thing for us, recognizing that the courts in other countries will not likely find in our behalf. We do need to get to know our distributors and the people that we're doing business with, and feel that you can trust those guys. Even though you may not be able to enforce an NDA, you still need to ask for it, because if they bulk, that should tell you a lot.
Right.
I've used that very tool often. Ask people to sign NDAs, and when they bulk, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, I once paid $5,000 to have a Chinese enforceable contract written up, and everything was great in negotiating the contract up until it came time to sign the contract, and that's when the crickets started playing. Yeah, it was frustrating, but it showed me who I was dealing with,
That's right.
and that rather large business deal did not go forward from there. So
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that I often do is I do research on if and what a company has been sued for.
mhm.
Obviously, just strictly as an example, if you're trying to put together, a non-disclosure agreement because of some patent information that you're going to provide to them, and they've been sued for patent infringement, you know, that should
Yeah,
tell you a whole lot, right? On the other hand, if they've been sued because somebody fell on their slippery stairs, well, obviously that who cares, right?
yeah,
But do pay attention to what they've been sued for, if in fact they've been sued for something, and obviously if it's something dealing with the topic that you're looking at, you should pay very close attention to that. Once again, the research is just super important.
absolutely. Well, I think we're out of time. just one last opportunity for questions in the chat. And I think we probably need to wrap it up here to respect everybody's time.
Yes, sir. I don't think that we have any questions. Ms. Heidi, do you want to talk about the next presentation? I don't
There
at
we
this
go.
moment.
Sorry. I was
No worries.
yes, I was just putting up the resource slide here. We talked about a lot of these resources, but some of them are new. We talked about the Rural Export Center,
Absolutely. Yeah. Great
commerce.
piece.
This one has a lot of stats on it. The National District Association has lots of good webinars available, and they have a YouTube channel too. We have a YouTube channul.
Yeah. And of course, our partners at the World Trade Center here in Arkansas.
Yeah, World Trade Center has lots of great resources for you. So just going on to the next slide. Maybe.
While that's coming up, I'd like to just leave you with the idea that when doing business internationally, assume it is different, that things are done differently there than in the United States, and you will probably be right 98% of the time. And so start off with the premise that it is not done in that country like the way it is done in the United States, and if you do that, you'll find out that you'll hit a lot less potholes.
Next week, we will be meeting on a Tuesday instead of on Wednesday. So if you're planning to come, make that note. If you register, you'll get the link and all that good stuff. And then we're taking a break, actually, the following week because our speaker could not make it. And then we'll meet on the 19th and then on December 3rd. So it's
Right.
different right this time.
William, any less words of wisdom?
No, I would say, really just, start with one country. Master that country, whether it's Canada or Mexico. Just, get your toes in the water, and pretty soon you'll find yourself up to your neck. So it just takes a little bit of getting used to. But again, the process that you follow for one country, you'll see similarities with the next country and the next country after that. So don't be too scared of it. There's lots of professionals at the Arkansas District Export Council who'd love to give you some advice. Usually free of charge with our mentoring. So please reach out to the District Export Council. Somebody certainly, if they don't know the answer, they know where to get the answer for you. So reach out to us. We're a resource for you as you go through this journey.
Yeah. One last thought, and that is, as you're to William's point about, once you start with one country, there's going to be some similarities, certainly in terms of the process, and so developing standard operating procedures that, when doing business in a foreign country, you should look at X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, and 3, and check this and check that. Have an actual list to make sure that you're not reinventing the wheel and that you don't miss anything as you discover new things and new potholes. Make sure that you have a list, and that the next country you look at, oh yeah, we got to look at X, X, Y, and Z, and did we do that, so that that you don't miss anything out, and it's less likelihood that you're going to hit a bump in the road. And I guess with that, thank you so much, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, William.